Hello, Sarah Sabin here, executive and team coach in the Leading in Modern Way video interview series. And I am really excited to be talking to today Alex Bane, who is founder and CBO of Taxi Studio. Alex, hello, welcome to the show. And could you briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Thanks, Sarah. Lovely to meet you. So I'm Al, and I'm one of the founders of a business called Taxi Studio, and we are an independent brand design agency. And we create unforgettable brand design across every touch point for the world's most culturally significant companies, and working across a wide diverse of sectors from alcohol, CPG or FMCG, if you like, art and culture, education, not-for-profit, nutrition, pharma, and kind of like retail and technology, actually. And we built the business. We started just over 21 years ago on three founding values: live fearless, form real relationships, and make sure we play fair.
Wow, 21 years. That
Yes,
is
I
a
know. Yeah,
long time, Alex.
it's been a while.
Do you prefer Alex or Al?
Do call me Al. Yeah, I'm very happy with Al. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And actually, I was discussing before we came on camera about some of your campaigns that you can see behind you.
Yes, there's some of our proud work that we've done in the last year, actually, recently. So we're very fortunate. We have some incredible global relationships with clients such as Tim Hortons here. So Tim Hortons are actually part of RBI, run out of the US, and they also have Burger King, who we also work with. Carlsberg, as you can see up in the top corner here, we've been global brand guardians for Carlsberg for 8+ years now, having done their global brand relaunch about 4 or 5 years ago, and currently looking at the future vision of that right now. Relaunches for the people like Byron Burger, and previously just last year I think we went live with all the work we did for Celebration, like a brand refresh there for them. So yeah, just some of the work there you can see that we do. But we've got clients globally, very fortunate and key relationships with Coca-Cola. I think we're technically their longest strategic tier one design agency. We've been working with them for just over 18 years now. We're very fortunate on that, working on projects globally, predominantly out of North America for them, that they push us and run us out into territories. Carlsberg, as I mentioned. Nestle, again, we've been working with for over 10 years, and quite extensively we've built a huge segment of business with Nestle Health Science. Kimberly-Clark are actually quite a new client of ours, centered out of North America, but again, they're pushing us globally. We've had teams just last week running ideation workshops in Shanghai with them. Shark Ninja in the States, we're working with quite extensively. Abbott Pharmaceutical as well. Molson Coors, Friesen Campina. There's quite a few. I think we're very grateful of the tenure and the scale of the relationships we got, and we're very fortunate in having relationships which are predominantly all leadership or C-suite, actually.
Well, you know what I'm curious about? You mentioned those three founding values of when you started the company 21 years ago. Have those values evolved in that time frame, or have they always remained just as they are, and that is what has led to the tenure that you have with your clients?
So that's a great question, actually, Sarah. And actually, I can hand on heart say they've been our three founding values since day one. I just this year, as we've done an enormous amount of work on our raison d'etre and our reason of being, which is about creating unforgettable for brands. That's the bit that why people come to us, making sure we create unforgettable moments. But they're born from, and Spencer, one of my co-founding partners, has done a lot of work on the language that we use to communicate that. And he nudged the values, but in such a small way. But I can go on and talk about how that's helps build the business. But you went from being fearlessness into live fearless. Real relationships has been at the heart of the business, internally and with the clients and what we call our client friends. So that one, to form real relationships, and being fair was always something that was very important to us, making sure that we were fair with our staff and our teams and our suppliers, as well as our clients. And that's evolved into play fair, because play is actually something that's quite important to us as a business. But like those values have, been ingrained in everything that we do and have led us to even build out and very proudly be certified B Corp this year, something we've been working on very hard. We could see it was obviously an important metric for some of the global partners that we have, and making sure that they are doing right. So we also want to align with that and ensure that. We've been B Corp certified, I think, since September. We've only just announced that. I think it was like last week, because we wanted to make sure everything else was in place. And I think it's something that all of our team very much respect, and are excited about. There's obviously a bit of a crest of a wave of businesses starting to try and move that way. It was an absolute no-brainer for us, to be quite frank, because it felt like an extension of like who we are and what we do already. And that's allowed us to build upon the foundations of the ways that we behave as a business and the principles that we are able to share with our team. So the team and people are at the center of our business. That's like not dress that up in any other way. We've spent 21 years creating a cohort of very interesting and people at the top of their game, we'd like to think, within our individual teams, but making sure that you can retain talent is very important. So we've put in lots of different aspects of day-to-day life at Taxi Studio to hopefully benefit and to attract the right types of people, and more importantly, try and keep and retain them. The staff retention obviously should be something which, like, all businesses are obsessed about. But we have everything, as well as being B Corp, and hopefully, we're rewarding people financially in the right way. We put lots of other metrics in place. So we have well-being budgets for all of our team. We have a lady called Katie Scotland, who's actually our in-house coach. That has been really important and big game changer for our business. I think all of the staff teams sit and communicate and have different conversations with Katie. Like, Katie's been fantastic. We've built on and made sure that we've got enhanced maternity and paternity leave. We've got private healthcare. We've got life insurance. We have mental well-being days where people can take a duvet day if they're not quite feeling up to it. And I think that obviously having everything that we've been through in the last few years has been quite important. I think, again, people appreciate that ability to be honest with us. That's what we need from our team. And I think I proudly can say, I do see and think of the business as an extension of my family. These are people, some of them have been here for some of us for 20 years, actually. We run biannual play dates as well, which are quite important. So actually making sure we bring the entire business together, where there's no commercial objective, but actually the leadership team bring different things to the table. We've got a new one coming up actually in the new year, which will be based around AI, because obviously we're looking at the fast integration of that into our business. And then we've also got things like volunteering mental programs and stuff, where people can come in and go off and do other aspects of good for things which personally interest them. Nothing connected with the business. The tools are something that they want to do that they think will make them a better person. So I probably wandered off a little bit then, but hopefully that made sense.
Well, I mean, what struck me is that you've gone all out in looking after your people, and coming back to values. It's all very well having values if you don't have behaviors that demonstrate the living of those values. One of those values that you talked about was relationships. Obviously, that's client relationships, but it's also the relationships that you cultivate with your employees and how you do that. And you have just talked about all of the ways that you cultivate a relationship that makes people want to stick around, which is important. But also, in order to have that business success, when they are there, they are performing to their optimal capacity.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I think obviously all of those benefits I spoke about are actually, you can say they're internally focused, but actually, these become topics which our clients are interested in as well. And actually for them to see that that's how we behave, I think they align themselves to us as well in the same way, because they see that they want to connect with and form relationships with people that behave in appropriate and positive and energetic ways, I think. So yeah, it's something, we've got obviously a head of HR like Verity as well, and the leadership team that we've got are absolutely very focused on making sure that team are key. Without them, we don't have a business, right? We're a service related business. We don't make a product per se. We sell services, and that comes and is born of thinking and creative output and different groups of people working together and rowing in the right direction at the same time, hopefully.
Well, it's interesting that your way of being is something that your clients are interested in as well, because it's not obviously directly a correlation with the service that you provide. But nonetheless, when we talk about leadership, one of the ways to be a great leader is to model behaviors, because people don't necessarily see what you say or what you should tell them to do. They see what you actually do.
Yes, I think, and that's, yeah, do as I do, not as I say, isn't it? Yeah, it's, and I think that's something you learn, right, over time. And I think a business only ever evolves from iterative learning, and I think, I'm also big enough to say that, we've made mistakes over the years, those things happen. But actually, confidence also helps build your own leadership ability over time. But things which I think are really important with regards to the way that you need to behave from a leader, like often most of it starts with empathy. I think, from my point of view, obviously we've all got like specific capabilities and acumen around actually what it is we do, but actually I think empathy is very strong key attribute that should be deployed into a business, not only just for like how you engage with your clients, but predominantly your team, and seeing like, where are they, how are they, what's on their mind. And I think as a leader, we've obviously got very, I run specifically now the aspect of the business. Okay. The three of us as founders have very different roles. Like Ryan is like CEO, so he's in charge of like, the short, mid-term, long-term vision and the operational side of the business. And Spencer runs and he's in charge of making sure the creative product is the best that it can be. And I think that's actually something that plays to our strengths now, because we've been able to like cut those roles up, and that allows us to very much focus on specifically the attributes that we're hopefully good at. But like, being empathetic to like the team is absolutely key. I think, as a leader as well, you need to show clarity of thinking. Making sure that there's good conviction to that, and so that people can understand you, and that then translates into like transparency of communication, making sure that people can understand their role and what it is that we're all running towards. Empowering a team is also absolutely key from my point of view, and I think that's something we've been fallible of before as the three of us. I think we're quite strong characters. I think you cut your teeth when you run your own business from a small business as it grows up. We're a team of like just burgeoning 40 to 50 now. And I think it's something you have to learn and temper and start to understand, like how you empower people rather than just running ahead and doing it yourself. And making sure that you understand how to empower different character types, because that's also important. There isn't like a one glove fits all approach for people, and I think that's something people need to understand and be aware of. And one of my favorite sayings actually is like, often many people can listen to a conversation, but not always do we hear what's being said. And I think having that ability to hear things is one of the strongest things you can do as a leader. And then also try and educate others how to do that as well, because they're two very different skills, and once you can hear what's going on, it can be transformative with regards to a business. A, whether you're liaising with a client, or B, being able to hear and see what's going on within your own business.
Mm. You're very correct about the listening hearing point. They're two different things. And often when we listen to other people, we've got an agenda in mind, or we're waiting for our turn to speak, which means that you're very unlikely to actually hear what the other person is saying. But it is something that you have to practice over time. And the more you do, the more benefit you get out of it, because we start to develop more self-awareness that way as well, because we start to understand how other people see us, not just what we think is going on externally and what people are thinking. We actually start to understand what they're actually thinking.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think one of the things that actually the three of us have been working on quite extensively this last year, is from a leadership point of view, is Ryan would be proud to me to say, is like seek to understand.
Yeah.
When someone's talking to us and telling us about something specific, let's seek to understand like what it is that actually they're trying to communicate to us, or what it is they're trying to achieve. Because like, as you say, is we from our own predetermined like outputs can quite easily jump in and go, oh, do this, or this is how you should do it, or like this is what we're trying to do. And one of my other favorite words, which people are probably sick to death of me talking about in here, it's context. What is the context? Because we can read a report, we can see a sentence in an email, we can hear a snapshot of a conversation, but actually the context of it all can change everything.
Yes, and that's a very important part of communication, helping people to understand the context of why you're saying something or asking something, because again, when people understand context, they're more likely to follow through.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
So out of all of the things that you've talked about that make up leadership, how do you see the application of those impacting the growth of Taxi Studio?
Well, they're at the heart. That it needs to be at the heart of the business, right? The three of us have been, the face of the business for a long time. And in the last 10 years, we've built in a shift of empowering a leadership team and heads of teams. And I think we've started to realize that the trajectory of our growth and where we are from we're currently where we are at Fee, and the ambition that we've got for like continued growth, there needs to be more people which are responsible and accountable for being articulate in standing up for collectively what Taxi Studio is about. Because that can't rest on the shoulders of three of us, and actually we need to like step back and let that leadership team, which are doing a fantastic job now, at like running the business for us and building the teams and the infrastructures to deliver what it is the clients come to us for. Because otherwise we'll always be stuck as a much smaller sized agency. And that can be quite an easy and a safe place to be, right? Because you feel like, oh, actually, this is how we do things, but it has a ceiling, and you start to inhibit actually what you do. We're in a very fortunate position, like I was saying at the start of the conversation. We have some incredible like global relationships, and the trust and the scale of the projects that keep being brought to us are incredible. So that means that we need, to be frank, we need bigger and better and stronger, more creative, articulate teams in all aspects of our business. So making sure that the clarity of like the team understand, what Taxi Studio stand for, create unforgettable, and how that like permeates across not just the outputs that you can see behind you, but actually like the experience that they bring to the relationships that they build with the clients or like the suppliers, or when maybe they're representing in a forum like this or a live conference or exhibition. That's absolutely key, because otherwise, I think you need to just be happy with what you can achieve in the amount of people maybe that you want to be and can be happy to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we've got an ambition to keep pushing the business forward a little bit. I think we've seen a few growth spurts over the years. Like most agencies, we had good growth for a long time, and then this little thing came along and upset the world for a few years and put a
Oh,
bit of a
that thing.
change of direction in. Yeah, that thing. Let's not talk about that. And that created a shift. We had to pivot, and and as a business, it's very important to be able to do that as well, because that affects growth. Because otherwise, you can have an ambition and an objective, but if you can't react to how forces are behaving around you, whether that be client or market, or other things bigger than that, then it will affect you. But I think as the world started settling down a little bit, even though we've got other changes and horrific things going on around it, that businesses are actually starting to, I think, return back to what a commercial world looks like again, because they're actually running into years where they're planning correctly themselves for them. Whereas when they come to businesses like ourselves that work on the periphery, that we're only having to react to how they've had to plan, and they haven't had time to plan either. Whereas now I think the world's moving back into a position where it can plan and move forward. And we want to be in a position to, to be frank about it, optimize that.
Mm, well, it comes back to what do you want? And this is why it's important to have a grasp of the vision. When I say what do you want, as a company, do you want to stay at a certain level? And that's absolutely fine if you do. But if you have plans to grow, if you have plans to scale, then you need to set the foundations in order to be able to do that. And that means that you can't do everything, that there needs to be a leadership team in place, that there needs to be the foundations that will sustain growth. But it can be sometimes, hard to do. It can sometimes cause a bit of an internal struggle for the founders, because it is their baby at the end of the day. Which is why I come back to, it's always important to know exactly what you want and why you want it.
I agree that clarity is key, and I think we've got to a position where the three of us are absolutely aligned, which is paramount, right? Because that affects everything. I think the other thing that we've got better at over the years is also understanding when something isn't going right, or as we expect it to, rather than just looking at it and being persecuted around it. Actually, something's not going right, it's actually one of our three's fault, to be quite frank, because all of that stuff has to come back up, right? And all the stuff that happens away from us is also, or should be, a projection or a thread of thinking. So if something isn't quite right, then actually I think we've actually got better at owning that ourselves and going, what is it that I need to do now to help better support the output, which needs maybe a bit of navigation on it. But these are things, I think, as a leader, you learn over time. You don't, if I think about how different it is when we set up the business, how we have to behave now, after a couple of decades, and being responsible for quite a number of people. These are skills which you learn over time. The other way that you can do that is by having decent inputs from external sources, like through mentorship potentially. So I mean, that's something that as a business we invest in now. So, and I've invested in personally for a long time now, over the last 10 years, having very key influential people, often maybe from a different background, but who are able to bring a different thought stream to you. So one of the people that I used to use as a mentor, also now sits as our chairman, actually. He actually has he runs the post office. You know, so he has a very important job, very different world to ours, but the way the structure that he brings to us from a board perspective has transformed part of our business. You know, but yeah, I've also used him in a mentor point of view in a one-to-one over the last sort of 10 years, because it's just been good to be able to talk to somebody in a different forum. Now we've also got like mentorship for the, you know, the leadership team, and we've got mentor. We've actually you know, started a new relationship from a founder's point of view with an external mentor, who a chap that set up a very distinguished agency, like, you know, sort of 5, 6 times, 7 times the size of us, who's, you know, not part of that, and he came to us because he was interested about like the potential he could see with us. And it's always brings a good and dynamic perspective to self-reflection, and then how we can then capitalize on that, and then again empower others around us to do that. Because the thing is with life, right, you only know what you know until
Yes.
you open yourself up to actually hear again like other new thinking, or, you know, just inputs. You know, the more inputs that you put in, I think the better that is. You know, that also comes with making sure we can give ourselves the framework to think sometimes. You know, I think that's one of the biggest problems with like leadership in business, is like, you know, in particular a business that like this, ours, you know, it's just very fast paced. You can be running a lot of the time, and like sometimes you just need to like pull over to the side of the road a minute and have a look back at it, and give yourself that ability, like, you know, even the 3 of us, to actually, you know, chat and reflect. As well as like the individuals in the leadership team as well, making sure that they've got the space to do that. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, I think, actually in the business at the moment. And it's not born out from a bad thing. It's just the pace of the business at the moment. Often in a lot of the projects that we see from our global clients, you know, some of the bigger projects can have longer timelines, and you know, they like slow moving big mass trains, if you like, but a lot of the tracks that come in are like, they're fast and furious. And then you can get quite carried away with that, because you jump on board, and then you're running at that pace, and I think you need to then often, you know, jump off and then just have a quick look at it. But we've got a lot better at it, and actually like making sure that everybody in the business has that ability. Because it also, I mean, from a, you know, we're a creative business at the end of the day, and if we don't create space for people to play and think, then actually that inhibits the product that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to pick out some of the key things that you said. So mentorship, and that can be external. If we're talking about external, it can be people related to your industry, or people completely outside of your industry. And I think that's a key point. When someone is outside of your industry, they're going to notice things that you don't, because they're not in the thick of everything. They're thinking of it from an objective third-party point of view. And that is as important as also having that industry expertise as well. So I really liked that you talked about that distinction, having a chairman who runs post office, which, as you say, is completely different. But I'm sure he sees things that you don't, because you've been doing what you do for so long.
100%.
And, you know, the point about creating the space for reflection, it's so easy for that to get lost when you're on a treadmill. So deliberately creating that space, as challenging as it can be, is so important, because if you don't do that, you risk after a while running and running and running, and you don't even know what you're running towards anymore.
Yeah, no, yeah, and we've seen that all too often. And it's because you get carried away with your own enthusiasm. Actually, it's not, and you know, the output might not be negative. Actually, it might all be good, but it might actually not be giving you incremental growth. And that's often like when a business, I think, becomes a little bit stuck in its way, it can keep going, and that's absolutely fine if, you know, that's what the business you know, a business wants to be. You know, some people get to a certain point and they're like, actually, this is good, I'm comfortable here, that, you know, this is, you know, what we're doing. But I think actually, the thing that, it comes back to also our team. Like I said, we've got, yeah, every business retains some staff, and other you get turn in other areas, and naturally, by some people will like have, they change where they, it used to be the fact that someone would move, okay, that used to be often a guiding light why someone wouldn't be able to work with you. That's now all changed, and very different, which has also made it very interesting from a staff retention point of view, because actually anybody can live in wherever they want in the world now, and still be part of the Taxi Studio family.
Final question, Alex. If you could
Yes.
go back in time and give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Probably there's probably a few things that I probably have a conversation with myself about. I mean, the first piece is about self-belief, and that's not really something as young adults you have a lot of in your 20s. I don't think, unfortunately. Some people do, that, and that's great. But I think primarily, and I think something that actually can follow you through your growth and career is like imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we've managed to grow our fame and notoriety and our services and our capability by being in rooms where there's a lot of that. You think, why are they asking me to do that now? Can you do that? Of course I can do. Of course I can do that. But absolutely, I think if you could bottle self-belief and sell it, I think it'd probably be the number one product in the world that people would probably pay good value for. But that again comes from actually lots of the things that we've spoken about today, making sure that your sum of parts is the input of like good bits around you, like coming in. I'd also say to myself, just be passionate about what it is you're doing. I think that's something the three of us were very lucky with. We were passionate about like we what we do in our industry, and we always have been, actually, Ryan Spencer and myself. But like, the more passionate you are about something, and whether you're in a room here with people or with a client, then actually it's like a drug. People can see it, they love it, they buy into it. It's infectious. It's a really good thing. It can get you into a lot of places. I think the other thing that I probably tell myself is, and it was something that used to bother me. It doesn't bother me now, but it took me a long time to realize this, because we were very fortunate. We've been invited into quite big and prestigious C-suite rooms over our tenure currently, and still right now. And it used to like freak me out a little bit, going off to see like CMOs and the C-suite around them. But like, they are just people. They breathe and eat and live and need water like the rest of us, and that's all they are. But not to be intimidated by them. And actually, the thing to realize is that they're inviting you into a room is because they need you there.
Yeah.
And not to overthink like who they are, because when you start looking at someone, you can look at their persona and think, oh, my life, why does that person want to talk to me? And it can always be inhibiting, I think, a little bit. So I think once you start, and I think it's one of the things that I've like not only speak about here at work, but like try to empower my own daughters who are in their 20s now. Like, people are just people at the end of the day. And actually, once you can get a conversation going with them and understand what it is they're after, or they want to learn from you or share with you, then that's very empowering.
I love that. And also, I feel like the first and third point are kind of connected. Like, I've found that most leaders I've talked to have some form of imposter syndrome, and it's not a constant thing, but it's just a natural side effect of pushing your comfort zone a lot of the time. And also, if you let that run rampant, then of course, when you are approached by someone who you perceive to be very successful, very high profile, you are going to be more likely to be intimidated as a result of that. So, acknowledging the fact that imposter syndrome exists, and it can actually be a good thing because it shows you're going outside of your comfort zone. And I think the more you build up your bank of experience of being with those people, helping them to get to the goals they want, the more you become comfortable with it. And I think a lot of life is just about experience and practice.
Yeah. Exposure is good. I mean, exposure is key to life, right? You know, if you don't get exposure in different situations, then we don't grow. Like as people, as a business, as you know, all of those things. Now my two favorite words in this business, which again everybody knows, and particularly in the role that I have in business development, you know, it's about persistence and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
In a business. I mean, that applies to lots of businesses, but I think particularly when you're in business development, you know, you need those two things and understanding like the importance of them, because things don't just come easily to us. It's by upholding those two traits, and signing up for them in thick and thin, in good and bad. You know,
Yeah.
because it's not always good. There's often occasions where like things have to be, you know, you have to face up to them and work out how to get through that. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for this conversation today, Alex. I've really enjoyed it.
yeah, no, thank you, Sarah. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. And to my listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to take part in the series, please do reach out to me. Bye for now.
Bye.